Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with its news update brought to you by Roof Rescue. Well, it became official yesterday afternoon. Utah State will participate in its 15th official NCAA bowl game and the 10th in the last 12 years. The Aggies will travel to Dallas, Texas to take on Memphis in the First Responders Bowl on December 27th. This will be Utah State's first ever appearance in the 12-year-old First Responders Bowl. The Aggies will be the third Mountain West team to participate. Air Force went there in 2021 and UNLV in 2013. Like the Aggies, Memphis went 6-6 this year with a 3-5 record in conference play to finish 8th in the American Athletic Conference. Memphis has been bowl eligible 9 straight seasons, but are just 2-5 in those games. The Tigers did not play out its bowl game last year as its opponent, Hawaii, backed out due to players testing positive for COVID-19. This year's matchup will be the 8th all-time between Utah State and Memphis, but the first since 1977. KVNU News Time is 4:06. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy, areas of fog after midnight, low near 20. Areas of fog in the morning on Tuesday, otherwise cloudy, high temperature in the lower 30s. And then partly cloudy skies Wednesday morning, and then mostly sunny in the afternoon, high temperature around 30 degrees. We've been to 33 today. Right now it's 29 at KVNU. Get prepared for cold and snow with Napa Auto Parts. Save up to $16 on a pair of Rain-X wiper blades or take $10 instant rebate on a set of Napa Exact Fit wiper blades at your 5 locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts stores.
This is Mark with Roof Rescue. Most of us don't think about our roofs very often until you see shingles on the ground or water drips through your ceiling. Keep your roof in tip-top shape to protect your home, your biggest investment. Roof Rescue uses only the highest quality materials with experienced workmanship guaranteed to last. Even if you were denied by your insurance company the first time, a free re-evaluation can be made. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free consultation in Cache Valley and surrounding areas. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KVNU News Time is 4:07. A Utah Tech student died after officials said he fell 5 stories from a building on campus. School officials said the student has been identified as freshman Peyton Hall. They said the incident happened at about 2:30 Sunday morning at Campus View Suites 2. They said Hall was with several roommates and friends at the time who witnessed the incident. Officials said the death appeared to be accidental, but an investigation is ongoing. A Utah Tech Police Department officer arrived at the scene after students immediately called 911. Officers from the St. George Police Department arrived next, along with medical first responders. Life-saving measures were performed, but Hall was pronounced dead at the scene. And police and fire crews are working to determine the cause of a 2-alarm fire that broke out at a paving company early Saturday morning. Around 2 a.m., South Salt Lake fire crews responded to reports of a fire at R&R Paving. Upon arrival, they saw that the fire had breached the roof of the building. Preliminary findings indicate that the roof and truss system were compromised by the flames. By 3 a.m., crews were still working to extinguish the bulk of the flames, including having to cut some of the overhead doors to allow for the water to effectively douse the blaze. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. KVNU News Time is 4:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
The latest news 24/7. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
It's true. Many of us spend more time thinking about what's for dinner than thinking about retirement. But if you think your retirement needs deserve more attention, Edward Jones agrees, and they can help. Together, they'll give your long-term retirement strategy the attention it deserves. Stop by your local Edward Jones office, one of 7 locations in Cache Valley. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
We may be thousands of miles apart, but we can still connect. And when we do, we make things better. At Child Fund, we connect children all around the world with what they need to grow up healthy, educated, and safe. Together, we co-create connections that help millions of children who live in poverty worldwide, and their families, and their communities, and you. Join us. Together, we can make the world a better place. 2 small worlds at a time. Visit childfund.org to learn more.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at 610kvnu.com, and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is a very wintry December 5th, and a few days closer. Today's getting longer, counting them down as we move into that realm. One of my favorite times of the year, in the wintertime at least, when I know the days are going to start getting longer, because this dark at 5 o'clock stuff, already tired of it. Speaking of that, we'll be talking about daylight savings time later on in the hour. It's once again coming up, and it is going to be the same debate. Whether or not it gets any more traction this year, who knows? But this is an annual tradition for the legislature, and a bill file has been opened. Also, we have a kind of a preview of the legislative session that we'll get to later on. Nick Dunn of the Sutherland Institute will be joining us. He, if you remember the name, if you're a longtime listener, you might remember the name. He was originally, when he first started joining us on the show on a regular basis, he was a representative of the Department of Workforce Services. He's now with the Sutherland Institute, a conservative think tank based out of Salt Lake City, and he was a expert on labor data, basically. And now with the Sutherland Institute, he had an opportunity to review some data from his old stomping ground, labor data, from the Department of Workforce Services and national labor data as well. And then after going through that, wrote an op-ed representing the Sutherland Institute, and he's joining us here on the show to talk about that. I'll spoil it just a little bit. This might be maybe stronger words than Nick will use when he's with us, but we know from the pandemic that a lot of the labor force that didn't come back, it's because of childcare, one way or another. And we also know that in this country, there is a decline in, that's an understatement, in single-income households. More people have to have 2 incomes to get by. And that is especially true here in Utah, especially with house prices where they're at. And Nick writes in the Deseret News op-ed that this data shows that if you really want to return to work or boost return to work numbers and underemployment as they call it, you want to get wages up. That the more money that a household is making, not through legislative tax cut or not through legislative aid to boost child care services, a better way to go about it, a way to have more impact, would be to attract higher paying jobs into the state on a more rapid basis. How they come to this conclusion, though, is fascinating. I've linked on our Facebook page to Nick's Twitter thread on this from last week, which caused me to reach out to him to do this segment today, but also the op-ed he wrote for the Deseret News. You can see the data he's working with and why Sutherland is, as a conservative think tank with some influence over lawmakers, getting behind this idea that the state is going about it the wrong way, and that we need to focus on higher wages and attracting higher paying jobs into the state, into more areas of the state specifically. So that's coming up at 5 o'clock. First, though, we'll kick the show off here today with our contribution to trying to lower the temperature out there. Later on in the show, we'll bring the temperature back up. We have more county drama going on after the announcement from the county clerk that he would be going part-time. We had a letter to the editor today from a candidate in this election, not successful, write-in candidate Mark Ensign, Lieutenant Governor's office, taking issue with one of the sentences in Mark's letter. We'll get to all of that later on in the show. But right now, just a little time to relax and go through some headlines. Your headlines with smooth jazz. That's my best smooth jazz voice, Bill. How am I doing?
That's pretty good, yeah. Maybe a smooth jazz station will have you record some
That's right.
liners for them or something.
So, the first story for headlines with smooth jazz here, I kind of, it got old after a while, but I was a big fan of, there was on one of the networks, I always saw them as web clips, there was a series called World's Dumbest Criminals, and this would definitely fall into that, but in Spalding, Georgia, the local authorities, I think it's Sheriff's Department, the Sheriff's Department posted a list of most wanted local fugitives, people who had warrants for serious crimes that they were looking for. And they posted this most wanted list. And a man, I'm sorry, his name was Spalding. It's not Spalding, Georgia. It was a county in Georgia. But this man, Mark Spalding, this is a true story. He weighed in the Facebook comments on this post and literally said, "What about me?" He was mad that he wasn't included in this most wanted list coming up on the end of the year that the Sheriff's Department posted. And the Sheriff's Department replied on Facebook. And
we'd be happy to accommodate you.
That's right. And the reply was, "You're right, Mark. We shouldn't have left you out. You have 2 outstanding warrants. We'll be visiting you soon." And they did exactly that. And
could you post what your address is so
that's right.
we can more easily find you?
So Mr. Spalding was arrested on those 2 warrants, and then later the Sheriff's Department thanked him on the same Facebook thread and said, "Thank you for helping us, assisting us in your capture. If there are any other outstanding warrant holders out there, or outstanding warrant recipients out there who would like to turn themselves in, we'd be glad to include you in our most wanted list as well."
Might mean, a little bit early parole. Who knows?
That's right. Utah having, this is also going to be part of a legislative debate coming up, but Utah having a bit of an issue with improvements or lack of improvements, really, to elementary schools. The 7th elementary school in 2 years is slated to shutter without a replacement in the works, at least not immediately, as reviews of the building and inspections of the building have confirmed that at the end of this academic school year, the building is just too old. It is not up to earthquake code. There are some repairs that would be needed that would be so expensive it would actually be cheaper to build a new school somewhere. But again, plans aren't in the works to do that, so the school will be closing at the end of the year. And parents in this area, which is West Jordan, parents in West Jordan are saying, well, what is going to happen? There isn't a replacement school. This puts some pressure on the legislature. With the surplus, the legislature has said they plan another tax cut, likely an income tax cut of some sort, targeted at certain individuals or certain incomes. But parents in the area are saying maybe it's time for the state to start investing a little bit in itself. We've heard it many, many times. Getting a lot done with very little is a slogan of, 3 governors in a row now. Parents in West Jordan saying maybe that isn't working quite as well as we think it is. The West Jordan school in such a state of disrepair, that elementary school will close at the end of the year. And again, no replacement is in the horizon, on the horizon, at least not for some time. So the school district has basically told parents, we're not sure what we're going to do yet, but stay tuned. A new app. This is an app that is caught on a little bit, and its design is intended to alleviate online bullying. If you may have heard of Be Real. That's an app that's been really popular with Generation Z and others. It's similar to Snapchat. It's you post a picture. That picture is live for a period of time and then goes away. Snapchat, I think it's 24 hours. With Be Real, I think it's shorter than that. But the whole point of this is just you and your friends are in groups on Be Real, and you just snap a picture of what you're doing right then and try to be funny. The app maker for Be Real says they did this because there's so much negativity out there on all the other apps, and you read these reports of how Instagram is evidence that Instagram is actually causing anxiety for young boys and girls because of the competition to keep up and look the right way. It's amplifying some age-old body issues and even general mental health issues. In lines with Be Real and its popularity, developers of the Gas app have released their app, and they say that it's meant to be a place where people feel better about themselves. It's one of the most downloaded apps in the iTunes and Google stores at this point, top 5 for the week since it was released. And the idea behind it, again, is that you compliment each other. You gas someone up. So where Twitter and Instagram and even Facebook, although the young people aren't using Facebook anymore, are places for negativity and cutting each other down and even bullying, the Gas app makers say they want their app to be the exact opposite. So they're shooting for, this is a goal showing that, quote, there are people who love and admire you. So to gas someone up is the goal again, building them up, giving some fuel for the day. Users download the app and use your location just once, whether you like it or not. That's how the app is designed. So there are some privacy concerns there. And then it's recommended to nearby. It's geared at high school students for the time being. So students in other schools, you can disable the location after signing up, but that one time it does need your location to connect you with students in other schools. The manufacturer says they never share contact with other users or third parties. They don't plan to sell your information or location for advertising. Once you verify your account, that you're a real person, basically, to stop someone from creating a fake account, then you have this opportunity to, it refreshes every hour, and people post thoughts and pictures, and then you have these options, these buttons you can click to basically gas them up. Give them a compliment, say something nice about how they look, or congratulate them on a personal achievement. And again, it is for a week now, the top 5 downloaded apps on the iTunes and Android store. So actually pretty cool. Gas prices projected to fall below $3 by the end of the year. Average cost for a gallon of gas right now in the United States is back to what it was before the Russia invasion of Ukraine started earlier this year, and it's expected to actually drop a little below that. The national average by end of December is expected to be between $2.80 and $3.40. That's how much variance there is from state to state. And AAA data says that 4 cents more than that is where a lot of states are already at. So that doesn't mean it's coming down a lot, but very good news. According to AAA, by the way, the average cost per gallon of unleaded gasoline in June was $5.01. And according to Forbes magazine, crude oil prices are a contributor to this. They fell to $82 a barrel last week, a 41% decline from where they were at in March when oil prices spiked after the Russia invasion. So they held out there through the summer, and now oil prices per barrel down to $82. Expect those gas prices to come down. And China also a part of this, as China is enforcing, and you've seen, protests and unrest there over their zero COVID policies, draconian policies that were everyone that was complaining and whining about masks and social distancing claimed that it was tyranny. In China, there is actual tyranny. And because of that, the country's demand for oil has decreased. So a silver lining in these draconian zero COVID policies is that China's population has reduced oil consumption steadily each month over the year, and that is actually factoring into the demand because China uses a lot of oil, and so they expect the cost might even continue to decline into next year. Get this, after a rough year of gas prices, analysts are saying we may see record-setting low gas prices in 2023, at least in the early quarters of the year. That would be nice. Those are your headlines with smooth jazz, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Want to stay healthy this holiday season? Want to make it to all those great parties? Want to just skip getting sick? Schedule a flu shot for you and your family. And while you're at it, get your COVID boosters too. Anyone age 5 and up can get one, and you're ready if it's been more than 2 months since your last dose. Keep the holidays healthy this year. Talk to a doctor or healthcare provider and visit uptodate.utah.gov to stay current on your immunizations.
Coming up on the Tuesday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, runoff day in Georgia for a pivotal Senate seat. Can Herschel Walker pull it off against Raphael Warnock plus Clay?
We're going to be joined by Senator Rand Paul. What's the latest on all this COVID insanity, and what did he think of the revelations from the Twitter document release? We'll break all that down and more. It'll be the Tuesday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and America's largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal law enforcement agencies through our many varied programs, including free safety equipment donations, free officer survival training, cash donations, and condolence letters to the family of law enforcement officers who perish in the line of duty. USDSA also offers college scholarships for the dependent children of law enforcement, along with a citizen awareness program and thank you cards to law enforcement. These are just some of the ways United States Deputy Sheriff's Association assists America's law enforcement and the citizens they serve. For more information about United States Deputy Sheriff's Association or to see how you can help, visit www.usdeputy.org. United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, taking training to the next level because lives are on the line.
Coming up later on this week, we'll speak with some students at Logan High. And Jared Rounds, theater director there. They have a lot of fun stuff planned, but we'll get a chance to look into the experience students are having. It's been a weird couple of years, to say the least, and everything kind of getting back into full swing. I was actually listening to. It's funny how quickly, there's a contradiction in our memories, in my memory at least. Since March of 2020, when the pandemic officially began here in Utah, which for me began, I don't know if I've said this on air, for me the pandemic began not with that infamous Jazz game. Was that a Sunday night, Bill? There was a Jazz game, and then everybody's there, and the game's ready to go, and then there's this delay, and it's weird, and the crowd's even kind of hushed, and then suddenly, you hear the announcer come across and basically say, "Team's not coming out. Everyone needs to leave." And they the
COVID game,
the COVID game
introductory.
Yeah, I think it was a Sunday.
It was
evening?
a Wednesday evening.
Was it Wednesday evening?
Yeah,
that's right.
I remember it well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for me, the pandemic began just one day before that, when I was alerted by the Salt Lake County Health Department that I had been in close proximity with someone who had tested positive for the OG COVID-19, because I had a conversation with and rode an elevator with Senator Luz Escamilla on the final day of the legislative session, and it's believed she was positive at the time with COVID-19. She tested positive that following Friday, the first day the legislature wasn't in session after the 45-day session. And on Thursday, the day before that, I rode down with her. They reached out to me on Tuesday of the following week and said, by the way, you might have gotten it. By then, it would have been too late. Thankfully, I was lucky. No one was wearing masks, so we were 2 years from the vaccines at that point. And I'd read about, in fact, the first time I went back and looked, Bill, the first time we talked about COVID-19 here on the show was in December of 2019. I did a short segment that I thought was just going to be a one-off. I thought it would be the only time COVID-19 would ever be mentioned on the show. Because
it was in the news, 3 years ago at this time.
Well, the story I was reading was, to me, it was interesting because it was a story about how they name these viruses. And the amount of, so they're actually, these aren't arbitrary names. Obviously they have a reason that they name them what they do. And I thought that story was fascinating because I'd never thought about how many organizations and people weigh in before an official name is selected for something that, and again, at this time when this was happening, no one, not even the scientists quoted in the article I was covering here on the show, was talking about this as if it were going to be a global pandemic. At the time, it was just a new coronavirus. It appeared to be very aggressive. It seemed to spread very easily, and it was affecting a small village in China. And I've read enough books about viruses and coronaviruses specifically to know that is a surprisingly, I think for most people it would be surprising at least, a very frequent thing. Coronaviruses aren't rare. The outbreaks are usually just very contained because it's easy to get control of them. Usually it's, I've used this example before, there was a village that was experiencing drought, and so many of the villagers were, more so than they usually do, eating the monkeys in nearby jungle land, and that led to a crossover, a coronavirus, just like COVID-19 that they believe came from a bat in a wet market in Wuhan, China. And the same thing happens, I don't know if it's yearly, but it's not infrequent. And but usually in the case of the village that got a coronavirus outbreak from them eating a lot of monkeys because there had been a drought and their crops had all failed, so they were eating monkeys to survive, shooting them in the trees and things like that. There was a coronavirus crossover from the monkeys eventually, and the outbreak went through the whole village. Many people did die in that village, but because health experts were able to contain it to the village, it burned itself out very quickly within weeks. So I remember at the time thinking that's probably what this COVID-19 thing was about. And I just thought it was interesting that it was December. I went back and looked. It was December 18th of 2019. Did a segment here on the show, but only talking about COVID-19 from the perspective. It's very interesting how they come up with these names and how many thousands of scientists weigh in on this and why that's important. And that to me was a fascinating story I'd never really thought of before. But there's a reason they want to get it so right when they name these things, because a lot of times if there is need for a public education campaign, which obviously a few months later there was, and how that went is a political topic we could spend an entire week on. But it was that's why they're so careful about this, is that getting the name right, it has to represent the virus, and it has to have a date. That's why there's 19 in there. It was confirmed as a coronavirus crossover in the fall of 2019 and started to get out there in the public eye in December of 2019. I was listening to, I was removing some snow again today. I shouldn't complain about that because last year, I think I maybe fired the snowblower up once last year, and I didn't even need to. I just did. So get started once.
Friday morning, the snowblowers were going nuts.
That was crazy. I was torn today. It was technically could shovel this kind of snow, but I was in a bit of a hurry, and the snowblower's a little faster. So I was listening to a live concert. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and audiobooks, so I decided to go with some music today. And it was a live concert that was the big return for this artist to touring in the spring of 2021. And the artist on stage talking to the crowd during this live concert that I was listening to, talking about how weird it felt, and how they were glad to be back. They were glad that they were able to get out on the road again. It was one of their favorite things to do. But just kind of sharing with the crowd that she was also experiencing some anxiety over it as well. And she said to the crowd, you know, if this feels weird for you, I don't know if it makes you feel any better. It feels weird for me too. We have to think about things in a very different way now. And that was just a year and a half ago. So it seems like forever, and it also seems like not that long ago that all of this started. And it did change things. I know one thing. I have still put my mask on in some settings, but not so much anymore. Now that you see where the numbers are at, it looks like these variants are more where the flu is usually at. Although I have to say the fact that the flu kills as many people as it does every year, and we don't do anything about that more than we do.
Yeah,
seems a little weird. As almost we've just sort of written off.
Well,
something that's easily preventable, we've sort of written it off as just, a certain number of people are going to die because I don't like washing my hands.
It's kind of like that saying that the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And, I mean, everybody knows the flu.
Yeah.
And it's predictable how it reacts. COVID, on the other hand,
a bit more of a
very
wild card.
Unpredictable as to what it does to people. I mean, the flu, can be serious, but you have okay, the flu does this and this and this.
That's the part that stands out to me the most through the pandemic. Of the number of family members I've had who got one of the versions of COVID, the different reactions, and not entirely predicted by, preceding health issues to getting the virus.
I mean, you don't get nerve damage from influenza.
No, that's, I have a young, very young, healthy, a very active, even I dare say athletic cousin, and she still struggles with some pretty, debilitating issues similar to asthma that the doctors are saying is not asthma, and that are a direct result of her having COVID-19. I have other relatives who had a lot of the high risk, preconditions that were being listed, who basically had a mild headache for a few days, and then we're fine. And so, the unpredictable nature of it, like you said, the flu, usually know what's going to happen. But here's the one thing that has stuck with me. I wouldn't say obsessive compulsive, but I am now a compulsive hand washer.
And I was doing good for a long time, but I need to get back to that anyway, because I tend to wash my hands more in the winter anyway, because there is so much cold going around and flu and stuff.
Well, one of the reasons I wash my hands a lot is that I suffer from, I'm outside a lot. I like to be outdoors. If there's not too much snow to hike along a river trail or something, I'll go do it with the dog. And I get those cracked corners around my fingernails.
Man. Oh, I hate, and
Yeah.
I get it around my knuckles and back of my hands.
So you've had
Bleeds.
this experience where you didn't know how deep the crack was until you put some alcohol on it with hand sanitizer.
Ow.
Yeah,
Woo. Yeah.
So and then that
stings.
That dries your skin out even more. So I got to tell you this little tip: the little canister of hand balm from Trader Joe's. It's basically like the you can get, I think it was called Udder Balm or something like that. They use it for cows in the wintertime. But it's similar to that, but it's a little canister. It's cheap. And you put that stuff on before you go out. Anyway, I avoid hand sanitizer if I can because it dries your hands out so bad. So I because of the pandemic, but also in general, I am a pretty compulsive hand washer. And I have to say this, I haven't had a flu in this. If I make it through this winter without a flu, it'll be 3. So there's something to be said for masks and hand washing, regardless of what you might be getting on Facebook from Uncle Tom. We'll be back right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:40, and the news is brought to you by Logan Dental Associates. Officials with the Davis County Sheriff's Office are searching for suspects accused in multiple vehicle and package burglaries. Deputies say it's believed that the individuals were involved in several package thefts and vehicle burglaries in South Weber and Layton that occurred in the last week. The suspects were believed to be traveling in a Ford F-150. Anyone with information about the case has been asked to call the non-emergency dispatch at 801-451-4150 and reference case number D22-13216. Police said they found no threat after receiving a report of a man entering an office building in Lehigh with an unconcealed gun. Officers said they responded to the scene on Saturday, and the building was placed on lockdown. Police began clearing the building before they located the man, who they learned was allowed in the building. They said the man was there to show a coworker the gun, which was reportedly unloaded. At that time, it was determined that there was no threat. Lehigh police received assistance from patrol officers from Utah County, American Fork, and Saratoga Springs during the investigation. And Utah State football will face Memphis in the 11th annual Serve Pro First Responder Bowl on Tuesday, December 27th at 1:15 p.m. at Gerald J. Ford Stadium on the SMU campus in Dallas. This was announced Sunday as the bowl pairings were released. The game will be televised live on ESPN. It will be the first appearance in that particular bowl for both teams. KVNU News Time is 4:42.
So many times at the end of the year we hear, wow, had I known, I would have come in sooner. Anyway, can we get it done before the end of the year? Hi, it's Dr. Brandon Preby from Logan Dental Associates and Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond. We want to help you utilize your benefits and get the best care possible without pain or discomfort and make it affordable. Often insurance or health savings is part of that plan. Please call today for your appointment with Dr. Taylor, Larson, Harris, or Preby. Let's get you the care you need before the end of the year. Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond or Logan Dental Associates in Logan.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy, areas of fog after midnight, low near 20. Areas of fog in the morning, mostly cloudy skies, high temperature in the low 30s. It's been to 33. It's 29 right now at KVNU. Whole Tree Care can trim your trees. Call 435-760-6587. Ask about the radio discount. That's Whole, H-U-L-L, Tree Care. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Branch Office Administrator Brittany Chambers bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report on behalf of Financial Advisor Daryl Arnell and Edward Jones. After another solid gain for equities last week, markets got off to a sour start on Monday, with the S&P 500 falling 1.8% and the Dow shedding 483 points. Edward Jones attributes this to a carryover from last Friday's hot employment report, with the markets interpreting the strong November job and wage growth as a potential threat to falling inflation. Interest rates were higher on the day, with the 10-year Treasury yield hitting 3.6%, though it should not be lost that 10-year rates have fallen as much as 75 basis points or 0.75% from their recent high. Overall, it was a rather quiet day from a headline perspective, leading financial markets to focus on the implications for upcoming Fed rate hikes in the wake of last Friday's evidence that labor market remains supportive of resilient consumer spending. Given this, Edward Jones expects the market's focus to remain squarely on next week's Consumer Price Index, or CPI, report and the ensuing Fed meeting, during which Edward Jones believes the central bank will raise its policy rate by another 0.5%. Today, U.S. equities closed lower. The Dow closed down 483 points, or 1.4%, at 33,947. The Nasdaq closed down 222 points, or 1.93%, at 11,240. The S&P 500 closed down 73 points, or 0.0179, at 3,999. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 3.6% higher by 0.09 percentage points. In stocks of local interest, Nucor is down $3.19 to $151.01. Pepsi is down $2.57 to $183.12. Thermo Fisher is down $5.79 to $557.21. Zions Bank is down $3.83 to $48.42, and Northrop Grumman is down $4.17 to $541.43. In commodity markets, the price of crude oil is down $2.62, or 3.28% at $77.36. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Daryl Arnell, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice. If you would like additional information, please contact an Edward Jones branch office in Providence, Logan, or Smithfield. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Hi, this is Scott Howder. At Allen Mortuaries, we're mindful of the challenges and changes families who have lost loved ones experience during the holidays. We're also aware of the love, hope, and generosity of others. You are in our thoughts and prayers this holiday season, and we're also available to provide a measure of support whenever needed. We're always here to help. It's what we've been doing for over 80 years. Sincerely wishing you happy holidays from all of us at Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
Did you build a new home? Regardless of how clean your builder was, your ducts will have a variety of construction debris in them. Debris like sawdust, flooring pieces, sheetrock dust, and more. You do not want to move into your home with that debris in the ductwork. Call the Duct Hunter and get on the schedule today. Call the Duct Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
I'm Ed Horrell, author of The Kindness Revolution. I've got a little suggestion for you this week. Take a moment to visit a classroom somewhere. If it takes going to an open house at a school, a PTA meeting, or simply making an appointment to meet with your child's teacher, do it. And while you're there, make it a point to say thank you to as many of the faculty and staff that are supporting the futures of these kids. To learn more, check us out at thekindnessrevolution.net.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. In my head, I've been calling it county drama, and I realize I shouldn't call it that because that's dismissive, and there are actually some legitimate issues being battled back and forth between originally it was between the county council and the county executive's office, which I would characterize as basically a power struggle, which I think is healthy. I think there's when you have checks designed into the system and you have a legislative body that hasn't had a check for a long time, you can expect they're going to be a little upset. Don't you know who we are when the check comes along? That's not to say that when the check comes along, it couldn't be handled more delicately than maybe things have been handled. I don't know. The stories I read that are being reported make me think that. But again, I maintain and have said throughout, I think that I definitely do not hold the county council innocent in all of this. I think that audits are good. I think that having checks on your power is good, and there's nothing I like to see less than a legislative body trying to consolidate power into itself on a regular basis, which we've seen with the county council and unfortunately with the state legislature as well, taking power from cities and counties over the last few years, which, by the way, when we get to the legislature in an hour or two, that's going to be coming up again. The legislature considering overriding zoning laws passed by cities or ordinances passed by cities. Bad idea, if you ask me. I see where the legislature is coming from. Anyway, I digress. We'll get to that in an hour or two as we talk about the upcoming legislative session and some hints of what will be coming up. But where things have gone with the issues in county government, last week and here on our show on Friday, we heard from County Clerk Jess Bradfield. Short version, he plans to go part-time. Well, he has gone part-time. This is, as he said on our show, look at this as kind of a pilot to see if this works. He's saying that the clerk's job, not the clerk's office. The clerk's office needs a full staff and all of that, and they need to be well trained. And according to the state elections office, Cache County Clerk's office has done a really good job. The state elections officer Ryan Cowley here in the studio said it was Cache County's clerk's office was actually a model they were trying to get other counties to look at and observe for how elections were run and how the clerk's office did business. So that's good news. Bradfield says he feels his position is purely administrative, which is, I mean, technically that is really what the clerk and auditor job that they're elected to do is. It's an administrative role. And he said he can do all the administrative duties of that office part-time. So he would seek or has sought and obtained private employment because he still needs to make a living, right? But he would dedicate, I think he told us, it'd be anywhere between 10 and 20 hours a week. He could do the clerk's job. My feeling on that is if that can really be done, that's a lot of money saved in salary and benefits of 401k in the county clerk's budget, which, as Bradfield has said, could go back into updating some equipment, hiring some additional people for this or that, a need that already exists. With his salary and benefits going back into the county clerk's office budget, it could go to other things. So my feeling on this is let's try it. But the one asterisk I put on all this is that we should have some clear metrics on whether this is working or not, because you could also run into a lot of trouble if it turns out that the clerk's job cannot be done part-time. Today, you can read this at CacheValleyDaily.com. A letter by a candidate. He's been a candidate for a lot of different things, Mark Ensign, but he's most recently a candidate in the write-in campaign for county executive challenging David Zook. Zook was successful, has been reelected, and not by a small margin. It was a pretty decisive win for Zook. And Ensign sent a letter to the editor in after the announcement came. And you can read the full letter to the editor. He basically says that, in his opinion, this is a disservice to county residents, and that it shouldn't happen. But there's a bit of an issue, and we're still processing this, waiting for word. But basically, something we can add to the letter to the editor from Lieutenant Governor's office. Lieutenant Governor's office has reached out to our newsroom. And I actually talked with some folks at Lieutenant Governor's office myself earlier today. In the letter to the editor, Ensign says that the Lieutenant Governor's office called this. He said the sentence reads. He said I spoke with Utah Lieutenant Governor's office asking if this were appropriate. They informed me that it is highly unusual, and although not illegal, it is clearly unethical. The Lieutenant Governor's office is taking issue with that sentence, and what I was told personally when I spoke with people at the Lieutenant Governor's office earlier today, they would not have weighed in on the ethical nature of this. In fact, they said they wouldn't have used the word unethical. The exact quote I was given is unusual but not unprecedented and definitely legal. So the lieutenant governor's office is saying this is legal. It is within county code. It is unusual but not unprecedented, meaning it doesn't happen often, but it has happened before, and by the way, is currently happening in Utah, part-time clerks. But again, Ensign claims they told him it was unethical for County Clerk Jess Bradfield to do this. The lieutenant governor's office is saying they did not say that. So we're waiting for something we can actually add to the letter to the editor as an editor's note and when we get that specific language from the lieutenant governor's office. So that's where we're at on all this. A listener asked me a little while ago what I thought was going on behind all this, and as I've already said, I feel like this is a power struggle. I don't have insider information to feel this way. I've just talked about and covered politics for more of my life than I haven't, and it's you don't have to be a political scientist to spot patterns in certain upheavals or bouts of drama that will occur. And my personal feeling on this, again, no insider information whatsoever, but my personal take is that you have a county executive who maybe came in and was maybe a little indelicate about things. That triggered a defensive reaction from the county council, and the county council has responded, I think, a bit over the top, giving everybody a raise except the people they were mad at. And I shouldn't say county council because it appears to be 3 members of the county council, mostly. And those 3, with, obviously, support from others in the council who voted along with them, when they withheld raises, it looked a little petty. To me, again, it feels like a power struggle. And I maintain this is healthy. We might not like the drama. The members of the council, members of the executive team, now the clerk and auditor involved, drug into this too. They may find it extremely unpleasant. Power struggles are healthy. Because, again, I think with the state legislature and unfortunately with our own county council, we've seen a willingness to want to consolidate power. And if you've ever been in these circles, you know how it happens. There's nothing nefarious about it. People get very educated on issues. The longer they serve, the more of a, actual or at least self-perceived expert on certain things they become in their own heads, or in reality. It does actually happen. And they want to stay. And then they start to feel more and more so that they are the best people to make the decision because they've been there so long. It happens in the legislature. It happens with the county council. It happens with city councils. We've seen it all before. It is good to have that power checked. And no body, executive, legislative, judicial, should ever get too full of itself. And so my take is this is just natural growing pains. And this should just play out and land somewhere different than where it started. I know others, though, feel like this is chaos, and I've been told by certain elected officials that's how they feel. Public policy is messy. The mechanisms of government are messy. It doesn't always have to be, and it's unfortunate that sometimes this is the only way change comes about. But power struggles between branches that are checks on each other are a healthy part of the process in the long run. That's my take on all this. But again, we will update the letter to the editor from Mark Ensign as soon as we get an actual, something we can put as an official statement from the Lieutenant Governor's office. But what I've been told, what our newsroom was told, is that the Lieutenant Governor's office takes issue with Mark Ensign in his letter to the editor that we published, saying that they informed him, he says, that this was unethical. The office says they would not have done that and did not do that. They would weigh in on the legality, and that would be it. And their response was, it is legal. So that's where we're at. We'll be back right after this.
When deciding on a Medicare plan, don't be just another number. Expect to be known and valued at Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Think about this. When you respond to a national Medicare mailer or an 800 number, or even give your life's history to an out-of-state telemarketer, the reality is this. You will never speak to the same person twice, and they don't have your best interest at heart. At Jessup Insurance, you will never be just another number. Call Jessup Insurance at 435-213-3200 for personal Medicare help today.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
Several families who need help this holiday season have been nominated by trusted individuals. Some of them need winter clothes, others would like toys or music, and others simply need basic necessities. The Cache Valley Media Group is sponsoring Cares for Christmas. Visit caresforchristmas.org to see what these families need, then drop off your donations to 810 West, 200 North in Logan. Thank you for helping these deserving families, and thanks for caring this Christmas.